But
they don't have curb and gutters. So.
yeah, so nope, we're not moving curb and gutter. I mean, we've thought about it for years.
I know.
If things were unlimited, we would probably push 5 lanes in there, but we can never get it, so. Be a good,
That's it. So you're gonna be.
and honestly, I think the 3 lanes has been important just fine forever. But it functions now and it's pretty well built out.
At certain times.
Yep.
To try.
But without, yeah, especially you'll always have your conditions as close as Drive 41, but. You know, near you, it might feel a little bit. I don't know what that's gonna look like, because we'll have to, you've got the 2 lanes that you've got to drop taper, so depending on the length of that taper. I don't know what that'll look like at your place yet or not. So the short answer is no, but it might feel like.
No, but kinda.
Yeah, I did that turn for the first time. Brian's like, stay in this lane. This lane goes nowhere. No, look. And then it merged,
It's a
but it
quick-
merged too fast. I don't like that anyway. But
Yeah,
So I'll always just go to the left.
yeah, if you're in the far left lane,
Yeah.
you're good, but if you're gone and you're going home, pick that up.
Well, the merge goes away before his house though.
Yeah.
So he has to merge over.
That's true.
Yeah.
The only problem is people trying to get into Anaya's market right there, if you're in the right lane.
Oh,
They stop.
They stop and then
Yes.
it starts backing everybody up.
Yeah, which is,
Surplus land, you know, requires.
I could talk forever about access management principles and spacing from intersections, you're getting driveways, consolidating driveways. Yes.
First right, then we want the person's back up, which we're gonna do. But.
Or driving a Penske rental. Big truck.
Surplus land.
Steering on the right side of him. And that double.
Yeah.
I almost ended up in Nias Barn. The other side, I wanted to turn wide. So I just backed off and let him have the road.
I get more often than not, I go straight and turn down Falcons.
We'll see, it's not housing that we want, that's the problem.
it's the next road to the west of.
Road in the neighborhood west of.
Exactly.
She was taking the storm drain to help us too. Cause you can turn in there without having to stop, so you don't bottom out. But there's a stop sign. Coming off 41.
Hey.
Yeah, we got rid of one.
We'd like to welcome you all and call to order the study meeting of the West Valley City Council. It is October 24th, 2023. And we are beginning at 4:30 p.m. in the multipurpose room of West Valley City Hall. We will excuse Councilman Hune and Councilman Fitzsimmons. Is he on there?
Yes.
That thing's in front of him. I have something in front of it that blocks it. So welcome, Jake. So we have Councilman Fitzsimmons on Zoom. Then we have at the table, Councilman Whetstone, Councilman Harmon, Councilman Nordfeld, Councilman Christensen, and myself. And we're also joined at the table by Dan Johnson, our Public Works Director, and Nicole Kamick, our City Recorder. Our next item is the minutes, October 17th, 2023, and I'll turn them to the council for discussion or a motion.
For approval of those minutes.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And Jake, you have your hand up. You have a comment?
That's just a mouse.
That's mouse. Okay, sorry. Okay.
I
Boy, who left
Really
their
want to
mouse?
make it known that I approve those minutes, yes.
All right. We now have our regular meeting for this evening. Mr. Johnson, is there any changes?
There is, and I'll ask Steve Pastor to come and explain that.
Thank you. So for the item that's GPZ 8, 2023, the applicant had requested a 2-week continuance. They had a meeting with the Magna Water Board, and that was this past Thursday. And the conversation's continuing, so they're asking for another 2 weeks. So they're asking that that be continued until the November 11th, or excuse me, November 7th meeting.
Can you put that on there?
Yes, I think I put it. on there.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you just next up anyway?
I am.
Okay, so we'll go to application Z2 2023 and we'll turn the time to Mr. Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was, excuse me, continued last, or not continued, but it was studied last week. This is the second time this will be studied. So there was discussion last week about making some, or asking the applicant if they would make some further enhancements to the building. Spoke with the applicant about that. They are looking into that in terms of cost. The one thing they expressed to me, the concern they have is that their initial budget for fixing the building and remodeling the building, as they've kind of explored more the problems of the building, their budget has ballooned just to fix some of the existing deficiencies. So that was the one concern they expressed to me, was just that they're already spending much more on the building than what they had originally anticipated, just to have it meet code. But they were going to have their contractor look at some options for like further sprucing up the building and then get back to me on what I think they could do cost wise. So
Okay. So this is the second week. So on the 7th, we will vote on it. It'll go to regular meeting, correct?
correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Pastrick on this one?
I was just curious if we knew that, had an idea of the volume of trucks that will be coming in and out and how many at any particular time will be staged at that location.
I don't, they haven't indicated that, but I could ask that question, see if they can provide some direction there.
I don't think, I was just curious if it was going to be a highly congested area, but unless the council would like to know that. I was just curious.
This is a repair shop.
Right.
I don't think it's bad information to have. Does anybody else? Would anybody else like that information? Anybody else listening?
It wouldn't hurt to have it,
That's what, yeah,
but it's not one of those that the guy, if they couldn't make an estimate.
Sure, it's worth asking.
What, do you know what the general plan calls for this area?
Yes, it's light manufacturing or light industrial.
And this is adjoining some of that surplus UDOT property.
That's right.
yeah. See, that's my biggest concern is you put all this brand new stuff in next to this, not looking so well. And this is our opportunity to spruce it up.
Yeah.
Where we won't have that opportunity in the future. Okay, doesn't look like anything else. Our next one is application GPZ 6 2023. And Mr. Pastrick.
Thank you, Mayor. And Nicole, if you can, thank you. And I'll share my screen. So this is one we have not seen before. So it'll be the first time studying this item. So this property is so at 3831 South Constitution Boulevard, just a stone's throw here from City Hall. This is on the southeast corner of 3800 South and 27th West. It's the First Baptist Church of Granger. And you have two parcels here. They total 2.9 acres. The current zoning on the properties are R18 and has a general plan designation of a community use, which includes things like churches. The request is to change the zoning to the C2 zone, the general commercial zone, and as well as changing the general plan to general commercial. So just to orient everyone, you have, on the south and east, it's all homes. On the west side, you have residential. There are a few, I think a duplex and a fourplex, but residential here on the west side. And then commercial on the north with there's a smaller apartment building here on the north. Conceptually, this is what the applicant's proposing, is to do a fast food restaurant on the north portion of the property and then have another commercial retail use to the south. That could be another restaurant or just like a retail use, for example. That's still being decided. So this was the concept that was shared with the planning commission. Again, where it's conceptual, there's several things that would end up changing in this concept. So for example, we wouldn't allow these two curb approaches here. They would need to align with the street across on the west side. But again, this just gives you a general idea of what they're thinking in terms of uses. Just some images here that show what's in the immediate vicinity. So you have the commercial to the north, like Planet Fitness. Here, of course, is the existing church looking to the southeast. They would be relocating. At this point, they don't have a for sure location yet, but that's something that they're still working on to essentially relocate the church to no location. And I understand they would be downsizing as part of that. Just another view looking east. Looking to the north, you can see the apartment building on the east side. So this is on the north side of 38th. Looking down 3800 there's the new apartments on the west side by Costco. And you can see the home there that would be next door. Looking south, so you can see the church on the right, a home there on the west. This is looking east along 3800, so the church on the left. Looking south on 27th west. And looking east here from the parking lot of the church. This is on the west side or looking west on the west side of 27th west. And then just a few more, this is north on 2700 west. This is the south portion of the property that's not really used as landscape there.
Stop right there for a second.
Sure.
So, sorry to interject now, but
Sure.
with that picture, there was comments from the residents around during planning commission about the height of the fence. And if it's that elevated, I really think it needs to be 6 foot above the finished grade on the commercial property.
Okay.
Because even if it's 8 feet, they're worried about the drive-through window lights in their houses. And I think with that as elevated it is still going to be a problem for them.
And we would, that's how, in terms of practice, whenever we have a precast wall be put up, it's from the parking lot grade. So if they end up having to elevate the site because of grading and drainage, then we would have the wall be that taller height. That's been actually what's in the code is it's from the parking lot grade.
Okay, because in the development agreement, it doesn't explain it out like that to them.
But yeah, that particular provision as far as where the height is measured is actually in the code.
Okay. So will we let them know ahead of time,
The
the contractor or the
we can,
developer?
yeah, we can let them know that that's what's in the
That's
code.
what you're, because it might be 14 feet on the other people's side.
I'll just make a note of that.
Sorry, I just thought with that illustration, it's the best time to bring it up.
Oh, that's great. So just again, looking north from 27th, just a little further north. And then that's the last image. So we did include with this zone change so that the planning commission did recommend approval. There's a development agreement for this and where the commission had requested a number of things. So the first is, if you think about 27th West between 4100 South and 35th South, we have many spaces where there's consistent street trees. So for example, the city put in street trees in the park strip on the west side of the road. Then I know we have a project coming up. We'll be putting street trees in just south of this property down 241 on the east side. The mall put in street trees in the park strip. So that first item in the development agreement would be that they would also put in street trees where you can see now there's not in the park strip. That would be essentially the same kind of trees that we have on the west side of 27, just so that matches. So that was the first item. The second is, and again, this was the mayor you alluded to, is that we had a number of residents that lived nearby the church that were worried about the height of the wall and, just light sounds coming from the commercial. So commission recommended an 8-foot wall instead of a 6-foot, which is the standard that's in the ordinance. So that's number 2. Number 3 was just more concerned about how just with the layout and having pedestrians crossing the drive-up lane. And so we had a couple of options there. So either the site would be designed that pedestrians would not need to do that, or there's some clearly kind of striped or identified crossing if there's really not a way to avoid that. So essentially 2 options there for number 3. And then finally, the last one was that the buildings would be limited to single-story buildings. So again, just in deference to the residents nearby. And that summarizes this application.
Okay, any questions from the council?
So even though it's a concept plan and it's a permitted use, so they don't need to show us a finished plan right now. Are there any strong indications as to what kinds of businesses or restaurants they're looking at?
Yeah, so the one on the north would be a fast food restaurant that they're considering there. So it does happen on occasion where you'll have a developer that's working on a deal and they'll ask us not to disclose at least publicly who that is, since they're still kind of in negotiations. But it would be a fast food restaurant. And then the one to the south, they've entertained other kind of food uses, but there's no particular tenant identified yet for that. It's possible it might not be another food use, but so that one's a little more up in the air. But to the north, they do have a specific tenant in mind. It's not a done deal yet, so.
There's only 1 or 2 fast food restaurants that I know that need a double drive-through. Just saying.
Good observation.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
jumping around like I'm in one day.
That'd be an interesting concept to have a double drive up for Chuckarama. I'm not sure.
I mean, the big one right there.
So how do customers get to the front door?
To that.
It's kind of concerning. And is it on this side because it can't be out on a main street unless it's screened, or why do they have it set up like this?
I believe it's more for the flow, and this becomes an issue oftentimes because if you think about with the car needing to come up on its left side, right, because of the driver's side, that's in terms of the flow, that's I think how it worked best for the drive up. Again, this is in no way approved this way, but so people if you're on the sidewalk, you can easily get the public sidewalk, you can easily get there. But what this is, again, the planning commission's concern is if you're in the parking lot, that there's some really clearly defined pathway from the parking lot across the drive-through lane, if that's what you have to do, right? So that was their concern, is that if there's a way to redo it, so you don't have to do that, but if it's not, then there's some kind of really clearly striped in the pavement signage that really makes that stand out.
Well, they obviously have parking on the south side, so they're expecting people to come in from the south.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
It's like that Apollo Burger on North Temple and Redwood where you gotta cross the actual driving.
Yeah, this just doesn't, this is our downtown area that should encourage walkability. And you should be able to walk to it easily. And I guess if you're from outside and you're not driving, it works. So maybe it'll work. Okay. Any other questions?
Just on that, I think we're not over, but if they extended this to the north side of the property, the drive-through on the north side, would actually make the drive-through lanes longer. And move the building interior of those, but
It'd be tough to go for traffic that's coming in off 38.
Well,
And
yeah,
I think to get out there and make a turn. Would be tough.
Yeah, I think part of the consideration, again, I'm not the designer here, but is there trying to maximize stacking so that, we've all seen if fast food restaurants that like actually stack out into the street, which we obviously want to avoid. So this scenario allows for quite a bit of stacking.
but if you had it go almost like a square so that they come through the parking lot and then head north and then enter the stacking, then if there's extended stacking, they're in their parking lot. They're not down 27.
Seeing no other questions, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move to resolution 23-162. We'll turn the time over to Chief Evans.
Thank you. Maybe tired of hearing me about fire trucks, but here I am again. This was, I guess, a purchase that we had to make. We had a fire truck that back in April was found to be unusable anymore. The frame rails had broken and we could not drive it any longer. At that time, we were able to find a unit that was coming down the line from Pierce Manufacturing that they were going to use as a demo unit, but allowed us to take it. Instead of waiting 2.5 years for a truck, the truck is ready. So back in April, that's when it was presented. And so now with the truck being ready, we need to purchase it. The other truck, I know some of you are probably thinking it was a typo. It was 700,000 miles. That is not a typo. With the hours that were on that truck from 2002 until now, the hours converted to miles is 700,000. I will tell you that truck was probably the best truck we ever had. Just a little bit of history on that truck. That truck was the one that was used after 9/11 when the department went around to get funding for the New York Fire Department. We were able to raise quite a bit of money. And at that point in time after, back in 2002, the council decided to purchase that truck for the department. The truck we're purchasing is a twin to that one. It's got a really short wheelbase. We can get about anywhere with that engine. So it's a twin to the one that was a 2002.
Hey, thank you. This was a good find. Any questions from the council? Okay, thank you so much. All right, we'll now turn the time over to Mr. Schertz for our resolution 23-163.
Timing was impeccable. Good to see mayor, members of the council. Lincoln Schertz here to talk about the resolution before you today. It's time to renew contracts with some of our partners that we have both throughout the state as well as federally. So Ron Hamm has been a federal lobbyist that we've worked with for the better part of about a decade, working on federal priorities on behalf of the city. We've met with each of the department heads this year to kind of set the agenda for 2024. And in that agenda, there are several things that we're working on. Some are on behalf of Public Works. Some of the items are on behalf of the Maverick Center and the anticipated future Olympics and some of the improvements that will be needed for the Olympics. And then in addition to that is police enforcement and tools that the police department's looking for. And so what Ron helps us with is really identifying federal grant opportunities for various departments throughout the state and throughout the city that we can work with to draw down federal funds for West Valley City. In addition to that, he works with our congressional delegation on direct appropriations to the city as well. And so what's before you today is just the renewal of his contract. The terms are specified within that resolution, and happy to answer any questions that you may have about our relationship with Ron Hamm and his consulting firm, or the work he's doing this year, or what he's done in the past as well.
Okay, turn it to the council for any discussion.
Are there any changes in the terms, like including termination clause or for the length or anything from the previous contract?
We did mirror the same term, and so he does a 3-year contract with the city. So we mirrored that same term. We did do a $10,000 a year increase in terms of his contract. We had not done an increase for about 7 years. So just based on cost of doing business, there was an increase in that contract by $10,000 for his continued service, and it's a 3-year contract.
Just a general question on the longer term contracts or multi-year contracts. I thought councils couldn't financially
Bind future councils.
bind future council. Yeah.
So there is a provision that's under Utah state law that he would be bound to as well, and that's what's called the direct appropriations clause. So within that clause, the city, if they did not appropriate funds for his contract, would have the ability to cancel his contract, and those terms are included in his contract as well. So he recognizes that if future councils did not appropriate funds for these services, that his contract would be canceled. But the general concept is we would have a 3-year commitment unless future councils didn't fund those line items.
Looks like that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right, we'll now turn the time over to Mr. Johnson for the rest of the program. So we have resolution 23-164.
Okay, this is a resolution authorizing a budget opening for a potential study. Ranger Hunter and the city have expressed interest in jointly evaluating a scenario in which they could potentially join forces in some way. And so this is simply a resolution approving the budget opening for a study that will potentially be coming. Ranger Hunter has stated intentions to put it in their budget there on a January fiscal year. And so they intend to include it in their budget for this coming January. And we identify a consultant together and contract jointly for this evaluation.
Okay, any questions from the council?
Is there any provision on how long this kind of a study would take to do it thoroughly? And
I don't really know. I really don't know. I think it's a very complicated issue. So it could be quick, but it could be drawn out. I don't know.
And for the water district, their January budget, so they wouldn't even be willing to start until January or after.
for sure.
Yeah, so,
If we waited for our regular budget cycle, that would be July.
so,
So this just makes it available whenever they're ready.
and they did put it in their budget last meeting.
Okay.
They told me, I went to their open house this morning and that's what I was told, so.
Great.
Then is it a kind of a general study, or what is it? There's specific items in there they want to study? Can you
Well,
tell us a little bit?
it's kind of broad. I mean,
Real
in
broad.
big terms, it could be, do they join us and we provide the water and sewer services for the area that they provide? That's kind of the big picture question that would be answered. It's really the question that's being asked in the study. And so does it make sense? And it may be a hill too insurmountable. That's quite difficult, because I mean, our initial looks are that it's not, it comes with some pretty substantial challenges just making that thing happen. And so, but it may come to a point where we don't even do the study, that we just decide that, that these initial things are too insurmountable. I don't know. But at this point, we kind of make budgetary statement that we're willing to look at the question and
Could we look at and discuss those big items that are obstacles now? Before we spend our 100,000?
Oh, most definitely. And before, and you'll have that opportunity. If we were to bring you a contract, hopefully we would have answered those questions and have a feasibility and really know a clear pathway forward if we were to go. So I think it's, right now we don't know the answer to those questions. But if we were to actually execute a contract for a study, we would have a better idea of how that plays out in the future.
And with the study, if there's no savings to the residents, there's really no reason to do it.
Absolutely.
This
Yep.
is only a look at to see if
Yep.
there's going to be a financial savings for residents.
And it's been a question that's been out there many, over the years, and it may be valuable to answer it once and for all.
Mhm. Get the bone away from the dog,
Mhm.
just answer it.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll move to resolution 23-165.
This is a right-of-way acquisition, a property acquisition that normally would be tucked away in the consent agenda, but the value is greater. It's $63,000, somewhere in there. And I just put on the screen here just an image of what we're doing. This is part of our 6800 West Detention Basin Improvement Project. As you'll recall, we purchased property recently from, purchased property recently from Magna Water for this piece and have a couple of other little acquisitions that will ultimately, we're purchasing this entire pond and an access along the edge of the pond so that we can access our large concrete drainage flume and do maintenance work on that. And so this is simply just a right-of-way acquisition to purchase that yellow highlighted piece of property. To give us access to maintain that pond.
Okay, any questions?
How much land is the acquisition?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
0.19,
0.19 acres.
that's what the warranty deed says.
Yep, that sounds right. About a fifth of an acre. And when we buy properties like this, we hire an appraiser and pay market value. It's going to be that fair market value.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Did anyone have any concerns or need Dan to explain any of these? They were all pretty routine.
Yep, those are.
Okay, now we'll go to our communications, which is traffic calming discussion from Mr. Johnson.
I think I will take my place at the podium, so it'll be easier to make this presentation, this conversation. So I've got Eric Brondum here with me. As you'll remember, Mr. Brondum, he's our operations engineer and a very competent, capable transportation professional that really implements the neighborhood traffic calming program. So there we go. So this is the follow-up with the extensive conversations we've had with the council about policy in neighborhood and in the neighborhoods regarding speed humps and when we put speed humps in. And I'm not going to really go back on any of that unless you want me to. I've got the old presentation if we needed to go there, but really just as a broad overview, a citizen makes a request. We have them sign a petition so that we know that this is a problem coming from the neighborhood, not from one single individual. We do a study, and then that study has certain criteria. And as you'll recall, we've assigned 10 points to for every mile per hour over the speed limit in a neighborhood, half a point for every 100 vehicles in that average daily traffic in that neighborhood. And then we assigned 5 points for different pedestrian generators. These are kind of extra other things. And it would be and then you add all those things up and that gives you a traffic calming index that then we've had criteria that we've said, okay, if you're over 100, then that qualifies for speed humps. over 75 qualifies for radar feedback signs. So my first recommendation to the council would be that we limit the other points, the other pedestrian generator points to 10 points so that we can focus and keep the main, really the criteria should be based on speed and volume, in my opinion, and that these other things are helpful. It's like, okay, there is a school right on that road that makes sense to give that road some points for having that school. So, because every neighborhood, regardless of, every neighborhood has homes that feed into schools, and it might feed into 3 charter schools and 2 elementary schools, but at the same, but this, my recommendation would be here that these extra points would be given simply if, there's that pedestrian generator, whether that's a school kind of right on the road or right near the road or on that school walking route. And then limit it to 10. So, and then the next set of recommendations, the council in the last time we met, I think you wanted to get a feel for what would changing the numbers down to certain levels do. In fact, let me grab something. I looked at our data to get a feel for what would it change, what kind of roads would start showing up if we change the criteria, that threshold from 100 down to 90. And a change from 100 down to 90 actually didn't produce very much. Like you'd see roads maybe like 3425 West, over in front of the middle school, right by McDonald's on 35th. That would definitely, that one shows up. 3800 South between 6400 West and 7200 West. But most of the roads that fall into this range, they already have speed humps on them, most likely because they were built as part of a network of speed humps on roads that were adjoining that qualified. And so they kind of got swept in with other roads. And so if we drop the threshold to 90, you're probably not going to see very much. And on here, I put 85, but honestly, I ran the numbers. So the next group, from 80 to 90, you'd potentially see roads like Cape Cod Drive, which is over by Hunter High School, just west of 5600 West. It's kind of a longer road that goes from 5600 West to 60th, roughly, through the neighborhood. You'd see roads like 4400 South from 3200 West to 3600 West, long, straight. Maybe Cherrywood Lane west of 4800 West, maybe Charles Drive. Yep, I think you all know Charles Drive, and then 5450 West, just south of 3500 South. So those are the kinds of roads that you'd start seeing show up in that range. And so if I were to make a recommendation, and my recommendation would be that from 70 to 80 or 85, if you had a road that hit that threshold, currently that threshold is 75 for radar feedback signs, but I'm saying, any 70 to 80 or 85, we install the radar feedback signs, and then whatever that new number is, 85 or 80, that would be the threshold for what I'd call a phased traffic calming implementation. And so, but you guys, I don't know, are there comments or questions about the thresholds and the kinds of roads that we'd see? Like, are you getting a level of comfort of where you'd like to be on that threshold number?
So currently for radar signs, we are
75.
75. So we're dropping that 5.
Mhm.
And for speed humps, we're at 90.
We're at 100
So we're dropping
100.
that 15 points.
or 20. Like you go to 80 or 85. I put on here 85, but it really could be, you might be better served just to go to 80. But there may not be a big difference, but there could be. So, oops, wrong computer. So what I'm recommending now is if we hit that threshold of 80 or 85, that we initiate a phased implementation of traffic calming. And so phase 1 would be, okay, immediately we're going to install the radar feedback signs, and then we wait and we see, does that actually fix the problem? If we did the least invasive solution initially, and does that solve it? And so we would, after 2 years, automatically just go out and redo the study. And if the problem persists, then we will install speed humps. And if it has been solved, then I think we leave it as is and we don't put the permanent traffic calming measure in, but so let's see. So phase one, we do radar feedback signs. Phase two, after 2 years, we would reevaluate. Phase three, if you met that threshold, then we would ask the neighborhood, and I'd recommend that we poll the people on that street and make sure that this is what they really want, because it's permanent. We're going to make this permanent change. We don't take speed humps out. So I just want to make sure that if we're putting them in, that the community really wants them, and whether it's a 2/3 threshold or a simple majority, we could have that conversation. And then phase four, we would install a permanent installation of speed humps. So this is my recommendation, and I'd love for you to shoot holes in it, or let's do it, or whatever you're thinking.
Are you suggesting that if in phase 2, 3, 4, if we're at the 70%, or
So
only if it's
if you get to that 80 or 85 number, the 70, then we'll just put the radar feedback signs. And we won't necessarily automatically go back and do a reevaluation of, we're not going to automatically just do another study in 2 years. That's kind of the end of their traffic calming journey, unless somebody reinitiated the process with a new petition.
So if they get 80
Or 85, whatever.
or 85, whatever we decide, they get speed humps, or do they have to go into this phase one?
If they get 80 or 85, they would go then into this phased thing. So we would not, and this is my recommendation to kind of slow the process down because of their permanence. We don't take them out. And so my recommendation would be if we hit 80 or 85, then we'll say, okay, well, let's start with the radar feedback signs. And if it's one of these roads that already has radar feedback signs, like, well, then let's just do the speed humps. But if they don't have anything, I would recommend we install the radar feedback signs, see how they do, and then graduate to speed humps if it did not kind of fix the problem. So.
I mean, I don't know how this would look, but I would do less radar signs and more speed bumps and empower the residents in phase 3 more, that if they have a need and neighbors desire it, and if we can see that they fit in the 70 or 80 or 85 range, that we get more speed humps. I think that's my feel from the citizens on Palmer and on Charles and
Charles had radar signs for,
wherever, yeah.
at least since I moved back.
And they still have the problem?
I don't know.
Oh.
I see him, I slow down to him. But I've had them there for at least 40 years.
And I think you mentioned, sorry, Tom.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned a couple weeks ago that they're similar costs, speed humps and radar signs.
Yeah.
One of them does work, speed traffic calming. The other one may or may not, it's kind of hit or miss. I'd rather put our money towards something that really works.
And not have the 2-year delay?
Yeah.
But then can you go back to page number 1 for me, please?
Yeah.
See right there, like study, we put right there, speed points, volume points, and then our school right there. But based on information, people, they came here last time or multiple times to public hearing, and they talk about car accident. Why don't you put in there for car accident too? What's the score for that?
Yeah,
We just see, maybe they have a less traffic, not heavy traffic, but have more accident.
Yeah, and if we saw a clear pattern that accidents were being caused in neighborhoods by speed or something like that, but that may be a good criteria to add in there, but it's not, we just haven't seen that pattern in the data. And certainly you will have some crashes that would have been avoided by lower speeds. But I don't know. I guess I didn't include it because we don't necessarily see a clear correlation between crash data and speeds. I mean, a lot of times what we've seen, and it's hard to, I guess,
How you put together,
say that again?
how you put together, how to explain that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It becomes a difficult thing. I'd rather, I guess crashes are oftentimes an anomaly. Sometimes, most of the times, they're by some driver who's negligent and reaches down to grab something and leaves the roadway or whatever. I don't know, yeah. Not sure I answered your question fully, but I guess I struggle to find a clear pathway forward. You know, if there's an accident, then we install speed humps. Like I feel like if we could certainly look at it and let that be an item in the criteria, but it's just from our experience and looking at crash data, it's hard to find patterns and that really identify speed as the culprit for these neighborhood crashes.
The second question I'm gonna ask you, I think I go with Scott about this, if the neighborhoods or the people in that area in general, they want the speed humps, what we call, and they met the test hole, 80 or 85 point, whatever, we're gonna set for that number. And I think we just have them out, put there for them, because we don't have to wait for 2 years for the radar.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's the direction that the council gives, my recommendation is to just slow the process down and make sure that we do the most invasive, most permanent thing after we know that that's absolutely the right thing. And if the council wants us to kind of skip that phased approach, we can certainly do that. We can pick a number and let that number be the thing, and we can go away from radar signs. I think we'll have a hard time going away from them because people like them. I think they have a role, but they aren't necessarily the fix all type of a solution.
So there are 2/3 volt, I mean, already explained to us, so, people, they really want it, if they have over or 2/3 or over 2/3, what I'm saying? I think it's already.
Oh, yeah, no, if you had that kind of criteria in there, yeah, you'd certainly know if the people want it or don't. But yeah, I also want it, I think we should only go there after we've met a criteria. Don't start there, but. So are there, additional thoughts? I'd like to ultimately kind of get enough. Yes, please. Eric's got something.
So as far as the cost goes, you're right, Mayor. The cost of one speed hump is about the same cost as a pair of radar feedback signs. So typically on a road, if it's a really long road, we might do 2 pair, but we do 3 to 8 speed humps. So there is a big cost difference there. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. That's good clarification.
So I guess my concern about waiting 2 years is most neighborhoods that I've spoken to, the residents that want the speed bumps have put up with it for like 5 years, and now they're just at their end.
Sure.
So to say we're going to add 2 more years onto this process,
Yep. No, I totally understand
heads
that.
might explode.
Totally understand that. Yep.
So I'd rather just stick with whatever the criteria is.
Hit a
gonna be
number and we'll install
move
them. Sure.
forward.
We could do that. We can absolutely do that. So I'm just going to try and understand where you want to go. So we've got a couple of numbers. We've got the radar feedback sign threshold. Should that or should that not exist? And should it be 70? And then we have, and then what number should we put the speed humps threshold at?
And these are going to be the only 3 things on the list now, not the 7 or whatever was.
Correct. It'll be speed, volume, and then pedestrian generators.
So you're
A
probably
school
gonna-
that's right there, a major park that's right there.
So won't everybody pretty much qualify for that one?
Which is why I want it to be like, I'd like it to be the school that's kind of right on the road or, yeah, most likely they will. There's generally something, so there's probably at least 5 points for probably every study.
So,
Ever requested,
so you've taken away the bus stop,
which was a pedestrian generator. It could be a bus,
right? And how many schools kids walk to? How many kids are on the streets because of that number? So,
Well, and I think we could also clarify it by saying, is this actually on a school walking route? Then, because every house has, every street's gonna have kids that go to school. So I think that ought to be more than just, will kids use this? Is this really a primary walking route for students or something like that? And the schools publish their walking routes, and so I would prefer that it be some kind of a clear criteria of the way that it's written and has been. They've basically kind of been just a few bonus points that have been available to maybe get you over there if you're not quite there.
So I'm just thinking a road that is close to a school that has a crossing guard somewhere along that route. Like Charles and Palmer, there's a crossing guard right there at that intersection every day for school.
Yeah.
It's clearly a walk.
Clearly a
Yeah, so
walking
you'd say
route.
that one would, to me, would make sense. That you'd give it some points for that.
yeah, I don't know. Because you have to be, the speed limit has to be quite high to get many points off the 10 points per mile an hour. And I guess if everybody's going 10, you get 10, that's your 100 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other cities have also put in a minimum volume threshold. I was talking to West Jordan. I think if the road has less than 800 vehicles per day, they won't even
Look at it.
put anything on it. Yeah. And you could include something like that as well, if you so desired, but it kind of precludes little minor roads that may or may not have a speeding problem. I don't know. I guess I'm not even gonna speculate as to what it may or may not include, but you could draw that kind of a line as well, or not. Because the criteria that exists may just exclude those roads already. They're not gonna get a lot of volume points, but
Are we as a staff receiving complaints that there's too many speed humps in their neighborhoods?
no, I wouldn't say we are. No. No, we don't have a lot of speed humps either. And those that have been installed, have been there for a long time, and I think people accept them. So I don't think you'll get a lot, that we collectively will get a lot of pushback if we lower the threshold and started getting a few more speed humps on roads. Like the 3425, 3450 west, the McDonald's Road off of 35th South. It's kind of a long straight road, doesn't feel like a neighborhood road, but it's 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, mile-per-hour speed limit, has a school on it. It might be a good candidate for speed humps, but it's not, I mean, it's not like a neighborhood road, but it's a neighborhood road.
Yeah, and those roads that connect or collectors between 31 and 35th are cut throughs that are used quite a bit. And they're not going home. They're just using it as a cut through. So they don't care how fast they go. So do you want direction tonight to be able to put together a new
Love that, yeah.
study?
I would, just really in my mind, the questions that exist are, should we continue at all with that first step, that first element of radar feedback signs only for people that don't qualify for speed humps? I'd recommend that we keep that, but if I know there's concerns on it, but it also gives us an opportunity to do something where it's not quite there for speed humps yet. And so, and then if you felt comfortable with an 80-point threshold, I would probably recommend that for speed humps. And we will not go for the phased approach, the phased implementation. We'll just do an immediate implementation. By immediate, I mean probably within the next fiscal year and a half or so, something that would enable us to put together a contract. As I've spoken before, we can install a handful of these ourselves on any given year, but if there's a if there's more than that, then it's likely an engineering project that just takes time to develop and bid and build. So we wouldn't give people hope that they're gonna have speed humps tomorrow, but okay, you met the qualifications and we're working on it. And we'd probably bid, you know, if I were to guess, we would maybe bid one speed hump project a year and just get all of them that qualified in that previous year and build them all in one shot, just as for the sake of economy of scale on bidding and construction.
So, but if we only had one street come in per year,
We could
we wouldn't have
potentially
to
just
hire
go- We
outside.
could just go do it ourselves potentially, yeah.
So could we have an open season for applying? I mean, honestly, to
It-
streamline it for you.
Well, we
You have-
accept applications between April and October, really to kind of
Okay,
keep
so
the
you
data
keep a hub of-
integrity clean as far as keeping the snow out of the messing the data up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the installing of the radar feedback signs, they don't give us any information. It just tells people how fast they're going.
It does. There are products that we could get information out of, that we could have it sent to us via Wi-Fi or, you know, cellular modem type thing. There's all kinds of bells and whistles that we could explore, but
Have to trip a camera.
I don't know about that. I'm sure the technology exists, but
We've been for a while.
yep,
Yeah. Send them.
you got to talk to your legislators for that. So
The legis-
They've got too many caught. I think we should look at the radar at 70 points. And not as part of the phasing, but I think we should keep an automatic check back on those radar signs to do another study within a year or 2 years to see if it's doing anything. Just
Yeah.
nothing else, just for our own information.
sure.
But I think I don't like the idea of waiting to install speed humps. If they're over that, so I'd say at 80, we put in the speed humps. I know they're still there. They're still on a couple of roads in my neighborhood. I know they were put on back in the 80s. So they're still there.
Would we still have a 2/3 vote of the people that live on that street?
Yeah, how do you feel about that? That's a great question.
You know, I like that because
Is 2/3 the right number? 60%, simple majority. 2/3 makes it very clear.
2/3 makes it very clear, and I like it because we would be polling everybody, not just the vocal ones.
Yeah,
And
Yep.
you know, I'm kind of vocal sometimes when they go up 40th West a lot faster than they should, but I'm not gonna get a speed hump there because
they won't meet the criteria.
But I think that 2/3%, you know, or 2/3 vote.
Okay.
That way we know that everybody's gonna like it.
Yep.
Or.
Or at least 1/3 won't.
Or at least
At least 2/3 will.
put up with it.
That makes sense.
How is that vote conducted?
I don't know. We would, UDOT has I'd probably talk to UDOT because they have a polling component in their noise wall installation. If your road meets their criteria for a noise wall during a project, they have a neighborhood polling that they do that has a criteria that must be met for those to be installed. And I would probably just talk to them and ask them how they do it.
And one house gets one vote, not.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would likely probably just go with, I don't know, you could track down the homeowners or you could track down the residents that are living there.
Yeah, because would it be the renter or the homeowner?
I mean,
That's
it's
the
a
other
great
thing with a vote.
question,
Which one do you do?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because the homeowner might live in California
I-
and not have any idea what's going
I think whatever process we would do, we would try to just really, we're trying to get a consensus and get us something to say that we did our best to really get a feel for the people on that street and what they really want. And
They
so
said they're permanent. Once they're there, they're
Yeah.
there.
we don't take them out.
Yeah, 2/3 good. I okay with that, but 2 years for the radar size too long. Yeah, people are gonna get frustrated.
Yep, totally get that.
You like, if we are gonna do radar, I the idea of tracking it out, going back, seeing if it made any change, because then in 4 years from now, we can look at that and say, radar signs are working.
Yeah.
Did reduce it by a little bit, or radar signs don't really work.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that and probably should. It ultimately just becomes a resource, a city employee resource issue that Eric's got to work out. Yeah, please. I think because Eric's done some follow-up studies on this too.
Go back. So you mentioned the Charles Drive. They've been up there for quite a while. I think. Trying to remember, I think it's 2009-ish, 2010-ish, when we started using those radar feedback signs. And we initially found that a year or 2 years later, I believe, the 85th percent. So we measure the 85th percentile speed, that's spade, where 85% of the traffic's going that speed or slower, right? And that's the speed we use for the points. So we found that it went from 32 or 33 miles per hour down to 27 miles per hour with those radar feedback signs. And the other thing that was a little eye-opening to me is we saw in the data that the average driver, the average people going faster than the speed limit went from 70% to 40, trying to remember, this has been a while, 40 something percent or less. So it catches people that don't realize how fast they're going and they slow down. People that are a little more responsible and don't necessarily remember. Now, over time, that effect may diminish. And I haven't done a long-term study. We haven't had a request on Charles Drive for a long time, and I just been using our resources for the stuff we've been getting. But it's been on my to-do list for a long time to do some more follow-up studies, and we will hopefully soon. But if we do change the criteria, that changes the whole status of that road anyway. So and then as far as the voting goes, we did that for Diamond Summit. We did it 2/3. I believe we just took 2/3 of those that responded. We sent out mailers, and whoever responded, we took that is what we counted as ballots. So, and I can't remember the return. It was something close to, it was over 50%. I remember, but it wasn't everybody.
So you counted the 2/3 of the 50% that return them?
I can't remember the exact details.
Because there are some people that are just not going to participate.
Well, and
And if
yeah,
they
we
count against,
initially
it's not
had
really
people
fair.
complaining on Wakefield Way about them. They didn't want them, but haven't had that complaint since for a long time, so.
We also did public open houses for the Diamond Summit, that whole area up there. We did public meeting at a school nearby, and it was kind of a big public process because the whole neighborhood got them. That's one where
Yeah, we
there were
tried to.
so many
yeah.
other ways to go to avoid the speed humps that nearly every street got them.
Yeah.
All Columbia streets, right?
Okay, so the radar feedback signs at 70 points, auto check back in a year. 80 points for the installation of speed humps with a 2/3 vote. Is of those that respond. So is there enough consensus that we can instruct Dan to go that way?
I just have one question.
Yeah, that's fine.
99% in favor, but with that 1 year interval that we're talking about on the feedback signs, did I hear that there are real time, information feedback? Like, can we be tracking that in real time to where that 1 year formal traffic study may not be necessitated?
That's something we could certainly explore. We could look at different products to see if there's something, if we should be buying a different type of a sign that gives us that data automatically. That's certainly worth looking at. And if the cost is right, it might make sense. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Eric.
We we've experimented with a couple of those where it actually collects data and then we go out periodically and download the data. We did that on 38 South between 32 and 36. It's a lot of data potentially that would never be used or looked at, but could be checked on occasionally. And we can do that with our kind of inconspicuous radar boxes that we have. Because it just adds cost. And then if we want to have you can do you can have them all connected and, I could get it in my office. But that's communications costs, monthly things and, so we can go that direction. Yeah. But
I'm okay with the plan as currently stated, but if that's something that's feasible and affordable, I just feel like point in time counts and studies versus cumulative longitudinal studies. I'm not a pro at this. I'm just saying.
no, yeah.
We're used to this instant feedback kind of stuff. And if that's something we could be surveilling, I would be in favor of that.
Because then if the need's really there, they could put in the speed bumps sooner. If it's really not slowing down traffic with just the radar feedback signs.
And even gives you real time, feedback for residents who are complaining about it. They perceive that this is happening. Say, well, actually, in the last 3 weeks, this is what the sensors are showing. We've got a 7% reduction. The average speed is 27 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That's
No, that's certainly something we should try. We're always trying to innovate and maybe we can experiment a little bit and whether we implement them at a larger scale or not, those questions could be shaken out in the future.
Yep.
But with the equipment we got and the protocol as recommended, I'm not opposed to that.
But I think I understand the direction. I think so. Yep. Thank you.
Just one more thing. Is there any interest in maybe a bonus point if there's a crossing guard somewhere on those streets? A couple extra bonus points?
I think it could be that same school walking route. Eric got a-
Honestly, the crossing guard is there as just control traffic. So they're actually stopping traffic. It's like a traffic signal, right?
Yeah, but
So adding a point. I mean,
guess it's just evidence of being on a school route.
it's just a school route, yeah, which we would count anyway, even if there weren't a guard there, we would count that.
But it just seems like that those 10 points would be allocated to almost any street
Well,
because
it can be, they're almost a free point. It depends. There's some neighborhoods where maybe they're bust or something. And yeah, if we want to go that far, then it's irrelevant. We might as well lower the threshold that 10 points, right? So, or change how we calculate it, so. Because we can assume there's gonna be children walking and playing. And and they should be able to walk and feel safe and even play a little, not worry about running out and trying to get their ball out of the street. I agree with that 100%. So yeah, if we want to lower that threshold more, it's just more.
Today at the 3200 West and 4700 South, the Truman Elementary School sent me an email and says that they've got kids across the street, student across the street that got hit by a car.
Yeah, I talked to the police department and got some of the details on that and we're looking into it.
So is there anything about the school we added right here, out of school, 5 points for something is an
Well,
accident?
3200 West wouldn't qualify for speed hump project. Right, but there's other potential mitigation we could do there to help that we're investigating.
I mean, like we add more point if the nearby school or the crossing line, whatever, it's got accident right at the point at the school, is that we get more points for that.
Yeah, if there's a pedestrian crash.
Yeah.
Involved crash, that's something you could add in.
Okay. And we need to put in there.
Yeah.
Hey, so there, I've heard a rumor at least twice now. If we could address this on the record, that if there are, in a neighborhood that was brought up in this meeting, actually. If there's speed bumps on my street, the county or the city are not gonna come and plow it.
That is not correct. We will plow.
I know that's the answer, but now it's on the record.
If that were the case, maybe we would put more speed humps out so that we could plow less roads.
Thank you, that's it.
Thank you.
All right, to the council calendar, are there any questions or concerns?
Mayor, I did have one I just wanted to bring up. Last week Angel sent out an email regarding the NAACP banquet. We purchased a table for the event. We have 4 more seats that are available. And I just wanted to see if anyone would like to or is available to attend on October 27th at 6 p.m. There's a total of 8 seats. We have 4 that are taken. And there's just an additional 4 if anyone.
So the 28th, what did you say?
The 27th.
7th.
Yep, the
That's Friday.
reception starts at 6. Yep. And if not, that's fine.
All right. To note, the one thing is we do have the veteran, it's not on here. Our Veterans Dinner on the 11th of November. So that is a Saturday night if everybody can attend that one.
Where's that at?
At the Cultural Center. Starts at 6:30. Is Jamie here?
The dinner will start at 5:30. The program will start at 6. We'll have the details to you. We're finalizing our details tomorrow. We'll have them to you by the end of the week.
Okay. So it's a nice, easy Saturday night. I'll work the next day. So if you can come on out and support. All right. Anything on the potential future agenda items?
Things.
Okay.
On our strategic discussion list, we have evaluation form for city manager.
Uh-huh.
And it might be a good time to discuss that and city manager contract, those kind of things. Between now and January while we're going through this process with candidates. There might be some other things that we want to add to that list in preparation for that transition, so.
That's a good idea. Would that be something we just do in study session? Do you want a special meeting for that? Or would we have to do that in a closed? That's for Mr. Bunderson. Whether or not we do that in a closed meeting or a public.
I think if you're speaking generally about a evaluation form and generally about terms of a contract, we could do that in an open meeting. And then as we get closer to specific people and start talking about that, that's when you'd want to close it. So I think you could just put it on regular or on study.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my concern is if it's going to take a long time, do we want to take 4 meetings and just have what's left at the end of which one, or do we want to take a specific date and have a outside meeting? Have it here, but I mean, just not a study or regular, a separate meeting, yeah. Next Tuesday would have worked great as being the 5th Tuesday, but with Halloween, I don't think that's gonna work.
Just wear costumes.
Mhm.
Do that?
I think we could discuss it during study meetings.
We'll have enough time.
And if we don't,
Okay.
we continue
Push it
and
to the
talking
next
about it the next time
Okay,
until it's all worked out. I don't think it's a 1 meeting discussion.
no, I think everybody will have to back and think about it and then come back with other ideas. Okay, so can we just add those on?
We could even include that in the city manager hiring process update that we do each week.
Okay.
If, at the tail end of John's update, if there's anything in particular you'd like to target. Or I could add a separate item, whatever your preference is.
Keep it separate, just so that it shows up on our agenda as something
Something
different.
different, okay.
Yeah.
Is there something you'd like it to be titled, just city manager evaluation
Contract and
discussion?
evaluation.
Okay,
discussion.
contract and evaluation,
Yeah. And then do you want to start on the evaluation first? Because then staff can have all that paperwork ready for us. Whatever's in existence now,
Let's start there. We can.
evaluation, then we
we
just
can
ask
look
for
at it
more.
and see where it leads us.
Okay, start there then.
You want it to start at the next meeting and then just kind of have it perpetually on the agenda until, okay.
Till we're, till we're done. And we're not having a meeting on the 21st, correct?
Correct.
Of November,
We'll cancel that one for the
so it'll
election.
only be 3 opportunities in November anyway, okay. So we'll make them worth it. Any other potential agenda items?
Yes, I have one. I don't know, this one I connect to Scott. He just brought up or not, but I can ask you for your feedback about this. I kind of like 5 days a week for the study, how we run in here, instead of 4 days a week. And how we're gonna put that, is that gonna put after we hire a city manager? Or before we hire a city manager, or you wanna do that, or you don't wanna do that? That's the one I bring it up to you guys, so what you guys,
So put that on a
yeah,
communication item.
sure.
So whether or not to change our work week to 5 days instead of 4.
Do we have a majority?
Anybody else want that on there? No?
Just asking for that. Like the employees,
Yeah, I
the
did it.
residents.
I personally think, to be honest, maybe the people in the back here are getting upset at me, but I think it's not fine. Here, the pointer here is 6 AM to 6 PM. 4 days a week. How many people be here at 6 AM?
7, we start.
Yeah,
at
I
7.
was gonna say they start at
7.
7.
6 p.m.
Yeah,
There's no reason to get up at 6.
it's whatever, it's 7 or something, but how many people will be here? But my one question, the second question is, we serve a community, and we basically, we make a commitment to serve a community. We're gonna do Monday to Friday, to be honest with you, is very short for like Monday to Thursday. Some of the citizens out there, they want to see us, they wanted to talk to us, to our employees, and they don't have that kind of opportunity to do. A lot of people, they come here Friday, they ask for which store we're gonna go to, because I'm here at the gym a lot, every morning from Monday to Friday. I see the whole point. And that's why I want to bring it up. Not only our city, serve or do from Monday to Friday, but a lot of city, they do Monday to Friday too. There's no reason. I don't want to have a long weekend for, to be honest with you, I think our employees gonna get mad at me, but I think I gotta speak it out. I'm very frank, yeah. Is that we can make commitment to serve. We have a new city manager, we have a whole thing, basically is serve community. The duty to do that. We don't have to take a long weekend for people that come here, they're not gonna do what they ask, where, oh, you guys not working today? Yeah, we're not working today. Fridays off.
We've been on a 4-day week for 12 years.
I understand.
Longer. Longer than 3 years.
How long we have our city manager here, Don? It's 21 years. So probably that's his implementation.
Are we hearing from citizens that
I've heard from nobody.
I've heard
they're
from
missing out
nobody
on
in-
services on Friday? That would be my only concern, is
Yeah.
if we're hearing that, man, I wish I could come into the city on Friday. I mean, I think I've tried to call, like, my garbage can broke or something. I tried to call and maybe I didn't get a hold of somebody on a Friday, but I just called the next Monday. It's not a big deal for me.
I don't think we've heard from overwhelming amount of citizens. They may come down here to pay a bill or something and find out, but you know, we've been on this schedule for so many years that citizens should know about it by now.
We would close, if we went to that, we would close at what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, we-
Five.
Used to be 8 to 5.
And we wouldn't open until 8, so now people can come as early as 7 or stay until 6 when their job's done or before their work. When, if we switch, they wouldn't be able to do that.
All of our essential services and urgent services and ongoing operational services work 24/7 essentially.
We don't close down the fitness center, we don't close down the cultural center,
Well,
Fire.
police and fire.
police and fire are essential all the time.
Depending when we put that long for over 12 years or 15 years. And of course, people are not gonna call us and find out about Fridays they're working or not working because that too long already. But some people, they hear and they try to find something employees that happen on Friday. Maybe people they just move in here maybe last 4 years or last 5 years. They run into a problem. And it's the 20 the county says, the Solid County says 20 by 2030 is we have a 500,000 people gonna move into our county. And I think that's what do we think about it?
I think you're gonna reach more that are in need from 5 to 6, Monday through Thursday, than what you would catch on Fridays.
Oh, the ones that come after work or before work.
Those that can come on Friday in the middle of the day, they could probably come on any day of the week, middle of the day. It's those that,
Come before, after work, but
yeah,
I respect that that's your opinion, but unless there was a more compelling reason from the community, I wouldn't be interested in moving forward.
So do I have 4 that would like to have this on a communication item? Okay, we will move on from that one then. Was there anything else anybody wanted to bring up? Okay, council reports?
I didn't mention last week that I did go to the open house for the temporary shelter.
Oh, good. And how does,
I was impressed with what we have there, and their ability to provide that service and good thing for us to take our turn. 3 years. Still 3 years.
yes,
We had a great Pete Harmon Day at the Harmon Senior Recreation Facility again this year. Good turnout, good speakers, great entertainment. They're doing a fine job over there.
fried chicken again.
Gotta have fried
gotta
chicken.
have fried chicken.
You're looking good.
so I went to the chili cook-off on Saturday. And it was really good. Like, really good. And not to be mean to anybody else, but ours was the best. Ours didn't win first place, but there were a few that we took a taste and then I'm like, gotta go back and get some more of theirs to get this taste out of our mouth. So ours really was good. Like really, really good. So they did a good job. Okay, the strategic plan list, did anybody have anything on there to discuss that hasn't been discussed?
Just that one I brought up.
Yeah, so, okay. We have a need for a closed session?
No.
Okay, we only have one more action item.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye,
Aye.
and we stand adjourned.